Thanks for listening to the Thyroid Fixer podcast with your host, me, Dr. Amy Horniman, aka the Thyroid Fixer. Also, functional medicine practitioner, hormone and weight loss expert. We're talking all things thyroid, hormone, and health related in order to empower, educate, and transform you. Remember, I fix your thyroid, I fix your hormones, I fix your life. So let's get started. I've talked a ton about weight loss resistance lately, but if you are in that camp and you are not losing weight and we are optimizing your thyroid, we have your hormones all in line, everything looks perfect on paper. Your insulin is low. Your insulin's below a 6. Your A1c is between a 4.8 and a 5.2. But you're still not losing. I want you to do a couple things. So this is going to be a game changer for you, and you can probably hear the excitement in my voice. The latest introduction, the latest member of the family to the Fixer line is Metabolism Fixer. And this, oh my God, I formulated this just for all my people out there that need to lose weight, that need help in the weight loss department, that can't lose weight no matter what they do, that feel like they have a slow metabolism, and that might be thinking of trying all those peptides out there, you know, the Beverly Hills soccer mom drug of choice for weight loss peptides. Or even if you're on them already and you're like, man, these are really expensive and I'm still not losing weight, add in Metabolism Fixer. Here's what I did. I took the power of T2, which increases your basal metabolic rate while you are sitting there watching Netflix. You're burning fat while you're watching Netflix. I combined it with a very unique patented ingredient called Suppressa. Suppressa has multiple clinical trials backing its efficacy in reducing your appetite, decreasing snacking, and providing way more control over your food intake. It is amazing. We also see improved emotional well-being, just decreased food cravings all around, reduced hunger, and weight management. Add on top of that, we have green tea extract, we have purple forest purple tea extract, both of which affect the metabolism in a very positive way without the jitters of normal fat burning supplements out there from the 1980s and 90s, right? The ones that made you feel like you're having a heart attack. You will not have that in any of my supplements, Thyroid Fixer or Metabolism Fixer. But Metabolism Fixer, ooh, yeah, we kicked it up a notch. It is in powder form, so you can drink it through your day. It's going to flavor your water. We got orange crush and refreshing citrus. I love them both. It is going to keep you under control all day long. So you throw a couple scoops in your water bottle in the morning, throw a scoop or two in your water bottle throughout the day. You will have fat burning and appetite control the entire day for what? An eighth of a price of the peptides? Oh my God, you can't go wrong. So grab some Metabolism Fixer today. Please let me know how you do on it. I am super excited for you. Super excited. First of all, you're going to have to track. I know normally I am very anti-tracking because it can mess with your head. But I think in the cases when you are not losing weight, I mean, short of having a history of an eating disorder, in the cases where you're not losing weight, it's absolutely worth it to track. Now, if you're not one of my patients, then you need to get your thyroid optimized. I mean, that's first and foremost right there. It doesn't matter what you're eating, how much you eat, how little you eat, how much you work out. It doesn't matter. If your thyroid is not optimal, you absolutely will not lose weight. Just forget about it. If you're one of my patients, then we might have to track. Now, I've recently found an app. It's called Carbon. I have no affiliation with it. I don't get a kickback, nothing. I just really like it. And it's simple. I hate MyFitnessPal, hate it in terms of tracking. The Carbon app is just easy. And it actually has food in it that I'm already eating, like the Siete almond flour wraps. It had collagen powder already loaded. It had my Siggy's Greek yogurt in there. So it was really simple to go in and track my food as I ate it throughout the day. Yeah, some things you have to put in, but most of it you don't. Even your handfuls of dark chocolate, it's already in there. So really start tracking your food. Now, it does have a feature where you can set the desired dietary preference, like low carb, or God forbid you're vegan, there's a keto, but then you can get in and you can adjust your macros. So, like I always say, you want to set your macros 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, per pound of lean body weight. So, if you're 160 and you want to be 140, set your protein goal to 140. So, you want to get 1 gram per pound of lean body mass of your protein. And then your carbohydrates should be set at whatever we talked about, or whatever your nutritionist or practitioner, whoever the heck you're working with, talks about. Now, if you're working with somebody, I implore you to use some common sense. And if they're telling you to eat a high carbohydrate diet or eat more fruits in your diet and you're insulin resistant, then you don't want to do that. So you want to, if your insulin is above a 6, you want to lower your carbohydrates. In general, most people can get away with under 50 grams of carbohydrates total. That's total, 50 grams total. But a lot of times we have to push that down a little bit, even 1 or 2 days out of the week, to really push your carbohydrates low. Then we can come up out of it on the weekends, kind of doing a keto for the week style of eating, where we bring your carbohydrates back up on the weekend. But when you're really tracking your food, it is right there in your face with honesty. You can see if you're taking in too many calories at one time. So I was just talking to a patient the other day. We were kind of going through her lack of weight loss and what's going on. She's starting her day with a 900 calorie breakfast. That is way too much for the body to handle at one point of time. Your body's not going to utilize the protein appropriately. It's not going to break it down and utilize it, because in a 900 calorie meal, either you're taking in just a crap ton of crap and high carbohydrates, or you're taking in maybe 60 grams of protein in one sitting. And that's going to be a little bit too much for your body to handle. 30 to 45 is pushing it. That's going to be the max. So you want to break up your protein throughout multiple meals a day in order to get the adequate amount of protein that your body needs. And your body needs protein to have a metabolism too. So if you're not getting in enough protein, that's part of your problem. You might be taking in too many carbs and you're insulin resistant. You might be taking in too many calories at one sitting, and then you can actually create insulin resistance from that, even if the meal is mostly protein and fat, because that large amount of carbohydrates in one sitting, that's going to induce an insulin and glucose response regardless of the type of food. Just the pure volume of the food is going to induce that kind of response with your insulin. So you can actually create insulin resistance from eating too much at one time. And then there's just that in your face number. If you think that you are eating 1,200, 1,500, 1,700 calories, and it's at 2,000, 2,300, 2,500, there it is in your face. And there's where calories can actually come into play. And there's where the calories are actually valid. While I don't believe in calories in, calories out, and it absolutely is dependent on the type of food that you're putting in your mouth, if you consume way, way, way too many calories, way too much food, even in the form of fat because it's keto, or protein, maybe you are trying to hit 120 and you're hitting 200, that alone can cause the weight gain. I had a coach one time that told me to go to 200 grams of protein, and I gained weight, and I was getting ready for a show, and I put on some massive weight. It was just too much for my body to handle. So you want to really look at the amount of calories that you're taking in, and you want to look at that breakdown of protein, carbs, and fats. Now, even though I'm a huge fan of keto, keto is the one diet that you can do pathetically wrong. I mean, really wrong. And there's so many different versions of keto. It's like there's different versions of every diet out there, right? I'm sure you vegans and vegetarians have your own version too. But there's so many different versions of keto. You have the dirty keto. You have the old school Atkins keto, where that kind of crosses over with the dirty. You're relying on pork rinds and cheese and eating as much fat as you humanly think possible because you think that more fat is going to produce more ketones. While that is true to a point, fat does induce ketones. The best way to have your own natural production of ketones is to eat low carb. That doesn't mean stuffing as much fat as possible into your face. It means eat low carb. Huge difference. So eating more fat, albeit it's fun, it's not necessarily going to result in weight loss because, and I mean, listen, if you're coming from a donut eating, sheets buying, that's a convenience store here in the Northeast, by the way, you're hitting the Circle K or wherever you go and you're getting a burger or a sandwich that doesn't even look like anything resembling meat, then that's your problem. And obviously moving to a high fat diet will be an improvement. But if you're not eating that way and you're trying to shift some body composition and improve your body comp, then eating as much fat as possible is not the answer. So there are right and wrong ways to do keto. Now we can do a very clean keto, low carb style of eating where we're dropping our carbs below 50 total, but that really still does allow for a ton of vegetables, maybe even half of a sweet potato. You can have some dark chocolate, right? And then you're focusing on protein for the other component and you're letting fat kind of fall into place where it naturally occurs. So you're not going to stop eating grass-fed meat. You're not going to stop eating wild-caught salmon. You're going to use olive oil and avocado oil for cooking. You're going to use some coconut oil, but you're not going to put fat and butter and MCT oil into your coffee and start the day that way. That is shooting yourself in the foot immediately from 6 a.m. on. You don't need a crap ton of fat in your coffee. That's not going to make you lose weight. And this is where really personalized nutrition comes in, because we can look at you as the individual and say, your labs tell us how you should eat. You should really be below 50 grams of carbs per day because you're insulin resistant and your A1c is a 5.6 and your insulin's a 16. So no brainer. Let's just use some common sense. What produces an insulin response? Carbs. Just fat? No. Too many calories? Yes. Protein? Moderate. So if you're insulin resistant, there you go. You can build your diet from there. You don't need a bunch of recipes. You have Google. Just for God's sake, just Google. So if you want, let's say, chicken enchiladas, go ahead and Google low carb or keto recipe for chicken enchiladas. You're going to find one, probably siete, almond flour wrap, something like that. Use common sense when you're choosing what kind of diet is going to work for you. Maybe track, because that is in your face. That is honesty right there staring at you in your face. And if you're marking absolutely everything you eat, and I mean when you walk by your coworker's desk and grab the green and red Hershey Kisses that are out this time of year, and everybody has, they're probably already starting to bring in, right, the Christmas cookies into the office. You're starting to bake everything that goes into your mouth. Yes, if you lick the spoon, I see you. I know you. I do it. If you lick the spoon, because the cookie batter is really freaking good, you have to count that. You got to figure it out. Figure out the amount of calories, carbs, and fat in that cookie dough, or actually use the Carbon app and then look up cookie dough. And I bet you there's something in there that you're like, all right, I used, Nestle Toll House instead of Chips Ahoy, but darn close, right? Whatever. So be honest with yourself. Track your food. Track your food. And then be very cognizant of your stress level. I just got back from Florida doing a docuseries on the thyroid and adrenals. And as we know, and as I'm sometimes reminded of things as I start to look into different studies and whatnot, if it's something I have to talk about, I'm reminded of all this. And then I remind you that high stress situations. So we're not talking about you doing a 4-point saliva cortisol. You can certainly do that and you can see if you have high cortisol. But I'm talking about just that stress that you allow in your body throughout the day. So just do a check of yourself right now, right? I'm going to do it with you. Close your eyes and just tap into your heart. Does your chest feel tight? Do you feel any stress or tension? Is your mind racing? Can you not literally just listen to my voice? Or does your mind bounce around to a million different things that you still have to do? And you're stressed out about something that actually hasn't even happened yet. that you don't even know if it will happen. You don't know what the outcome will be, but you're stressed about it right now. Okay, hands up. So in this moment, you are literally stopping your body from burning fat because that high cortisol produces elevated blood glucose. And that glucose surging like that is going to elicit an insulin response because we need more insulin to take care of the glucose. Now you're in a fat storage situation and you didn't even eat. It's not like you just had a couple pieces of the best pizza in the world or a bowl of your favorite ice cream. You're just freaking stressed out and you're doing this to yourself. You're causing your own weight gain. Now, there's another cascade that happens if you're a thyroid patient, most of you are, that the elevated cortisol raises reverse T3. Because when we're in that fight or flight and we're in that high cortisol state, the body has to decide what to do about it. I mean, doesn't want to be stressed out, doesn't want to be running from a saber-toothed tiger, which is why we have that cortisol adrenaline response built into us. It's meant for short-term use. Our ancestors, as they're running from the saber-toothed tiger, they weren't fretting about their kids' grades in school, and they weren't worried about the next election, and they weren't fretting about where money is going to come from when here or there. They are stressed for their life. I don't want you stressed out all the time. Don't want that. We have to lower cortisol, and you have to be aware of the cortisol phenomenon. I want you to be aware of if you're stressed out and wigged out all day long. I want you to be aware of that and tune into that so you can address it. Because now addressing your cortisol levels, addressing your stress levels, getting better at that, whether it's incorporating in meditation, doing some deep breathing during the day, look up Wim Hof breathing. Huberman just talked about breathing in this podcast. Just sometimes those quick in through the nose, out through the mouth, that type of breath. But you do that 25 times, let it all out, hold for as long as you can, and then breathe. Do that during the day if you're all stressed out, and it's going to produce a response that lowers stress hormones. So you're going to bring your cortisol back into balance and back into rhythm. Taking magnesium through the day, B vitamins, add in some B fixer. Those B vitamins help with your cortisol. Get your thyroid under control and hormones under control so your body doesn't have that stressor of trying to balance the endocrine system. The body can work on the stressors that it really wants to focus on day in and day out. Blood sugar, of course, we talked about cortisol. That leads into blood sugar. I already mentioned insulin below a 6, A1c, which is a 3-month marker of what your glucose has been doing, better be between a 4.8 and a 5.2 at any given point of time. So check your blood sugar, check your cortisol, check your food. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. And a little bit of honesty is going to come in looking at your insulin and your A1c, because I have a few you patients out there. You know, we're 4 or 5 months into this and you're still eating like crap to where you have these high insulin and A1c levels, and those should have come down. If you're taking your berberine twice a day, you're taking blood sugar fixer, which is 600 milligrams of berberine. You're taking that twice a day. And you're changing your diet. You're not over consuming food. You're not over consuming carbohydrates. And if you think that you're not, but your A1C and your insulin are elevated, then you are. Because we're working on your thyroid. You have to be working on what you're putting in your mouth. Because no amount of thyroid medication, no amount of testosterone, no amount of blood sugar fixer, no amount of T2 thyroid fixer is going to overcome poor eating. So if something isn't working, just really look and be honest with yourself. For those of you who are not my patient, you got to get your thyroid optimized, period, bottom line, end of story. You have to do that first. You have to do that first. You better be working with someone who's experienced. You got to get your thyroid optimized. You got to make sure your testosterone is optimal, male or female. You got to check your insulin and your A1C, same as I talked about today. Yes, of course, you want to look at what you're putting in your mouth, but you have to do all of those things first, or you're going to be like one of the many patients that come to me saying, I'm doing all the things over here, This is what I'm eating. I'm doing all the things, but I'm not losing. Okay. You got the lifestyle down, right? You're sleeping, everything. Now we can move over here and look at your thyroid and your hormones and get those optimized. You got to do them both. All right. Hopefully this gave you some really good food for thought. I know it's hard to be honest with yourself, but we have to be.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I hope you loved it. And as always, if you would be so kind to leave a review if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, that would be absolutely amazing. I read all of them. Also, anything that you hear on this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any kind of medical condition. So we always recommend that you check with your medical provider, your doctor, your nurse practitioner before implementing anything that you hear on this podcast. And if you want to find out more about working together, you can click the link below in the show notes to book a discovery call. And there you'll be talking to a member of my team. They are an extension of me. They are amazing. And you and I will talk after that once we get you all signed up and you and I get to work together. All right. I hope to see you soon.